Hello everyone, and welcome back to Hardcore Strategy, They Bleed Pixels. In this episode, we will be tackling the first chapter of the fourth dream, which is probably one of the hardest dreams, mostly because of the levels, and how long they are, and the theme of fire. The quote for this video is brought to you by Edgar Allan Poe, our good friend, whom I do not know. Now, this one forces you to use a mechanic right at the dash out. I do rush through this one a little bit quick, but mostly, you just want to make sure you kill those squiddy things before progressing because, again, they do get annoying. Now, for here, I just kick these guys off or do the whole launch stab and let them fall off the level. That's usually the quickest and the easiest way. You can kick that guy into the spikes to the right, but there's a good chance that he doesn't go all the way in and he will immediately attack you. And you also want to save here as quick as you can if you don't think you can kill this guy while avoiding the slime puzzles at the same time, but usually it's pretty easy. Now, something you need to remember is that you will bounce around on these launching blades or something if you are not careful. So you basically want to jump as quick as you can, or just immediately dash back. Because if you get hit by them, you will want to make sure you do that. And you also want to make sure you can blow up the bomb and kill that thing at the same time, so you can get a checkpoint here. Now, as you carefully climb up this monster here, you will hear that there is a wraith within that beast as well, so it will follow you continuously, so you have to do this pretty much as quickly as you can. Now, normally you want to make sure you can blow up that bomb in, so you can just not have to deal with it at all. It's okay to take hard damage. If you do, end up only triggering it, aggroing it, you do want to duck down, but for the most part, you want to make sure you can blow it up. For this particular part, it'll take a precise amount of platforming. Again, it's not the best, but you do want to make sure you can at least launch and bomb him so you don't have to deal with the knife imp, and if you don't deal with the knife imp the right way, it can easily kill you if you do the dash down attack. So normally what you want to do for a level like this, you just want to kick them off, but the geometry of the level can sometimes block that and make it more difficult, but sometimes you can get the right angle like that while they're just randomly jump in the air. But for the most part, they are pretty easy to deal with once you just get rid of them. Again, like this guy. You just kick all your problems away, then he's solved. Now, right here, you have to be careful because if you go up too early, the knife imps will trigger and you won't be able to take care of them as quickly as you can. You can easily die. But basically, you just want to kick that guy and pretty much avoid those knife imps as much as you can. You don't have to do anything with them if you don't want to. Because kicking these chamblers out onto the rotating saw blades down there is pretty much a guaranteed checkpoint. And you do have to be careful because if you get hit by any of these saw blades, you will bounce off and most efficiently fall into spike pits or get bounced around. Now right here is pretty simple, you just gotta launch and kill those chamblers to get a checkpoint there so you don't have to do that again. And this is also another place where you will want to get a checkpoint once you get up there, and again it is very, very precise with the platforming because of how small the window is for getting up there. Basically, you want to get enough of a kill so you can get the knife imp to either fall off or get hit by the saw blades, which automatically spawn from a certain point in which you stand. Now, you are going to want to be careful and get a choke point here because killing those guys usually is no problem, but with how many enemies are on the screen, so many things can happen, so you just want to be safe about it. But basically, for this part, you want to kick these guys as far as you can, and then once you take care of all the knife imps that'll be around, you want to launch them up in the air and do your basic shoulder stab. And then they'll pretty much fall into any saw blades that might either be below or the ones that'll come out from that little platform right there. It's basically a sacrificial altar, if you would. And it will get laggy depending on how many you use, but you can see you get mad points from that one bit there. But I'm actually going to skip ahead and show you the safe route, which in turn happens to be a little bit slower and more dangerous, kind of, because you do have to deal with more enemies and whatnot, but it's the general way that you're meant to play, pretty much. It does mean you have to deal with more squiddy things, which are very annoying because they do not like to go around that particular spot for some reason, so you gotta lure them in a certain way so that they don't get stuck. Otherwise, you'll have to deal with them later on. But you do want to make sure they die. Now, this right here is just a little scarab where you gotta go and jump past the saw blades as it goes down, and avoid the spikes above and below as well, but you can easily circumvent this from all the way around. As you can see, it's raised up, so you can just go all the way over regardless of how high that Sabblade is. So yeah, that's a safe route. Now for right here, you gotta time your jumps very specifically, because not only do you have to land on that platform to trigger the saw blades, you also have to make sure you land on the saw blades in just the right spot so you can bounce up. But you also want to make sure that you can at least have enough hit points so that you don't die too easily from the shamblers that come down from below, because there are more squishy things. But again, if you don't want to deal with that little previous level, this is pretty easy to skip. Pretty much just hold forward the entire time and you'll land safely right there. Pretty simple. And, of course, you do want to make sure you will have enough points to save before you try to go for most of the enemies, otherwise you will die pretty darn easily. That's pretty much the gist of it. Now, this one shows a line of saw blades that will launch out when any living thing comes through there. And it will be a little bit off timing sometimes, and it will kill you if you're not careful. So, you also want to make sure to, again, kill the squiddy things as quickly as you can, because, for the most part, flying enemies are priority number 1. And you gotta stay down here, because the saw blades spawn in a very interesting way that makes it very difficult. And you also want to make sure that you don't launch yourself up in the air once you kick an enemy in the air, because that will trigger the saw blades, and you can find yourself getting hit pretty darn easily if you're not careful. You might have to get a little bit creative with killing the enemies if you save down there, because there's a good chance that you could end up not having enough for a checkpoint once you get to the door, and you want a checkpoint, because this is probably one of the most difficult areas of this particular level, because you can get bounced around so easily. So, you basically just want to find a way to juggle around the enemies as much as you can, get as many hit points as you can at one point as possible. So what I do is basically I just stab them and like kick them in there so you can get a multiplier and launch them in there and just do whatever, and you'll get a lot more points much more easily by doing that. So you want to save right before you go down there. Now the one thing you gotta make sure to do when you first enter this little obstacle is to kill the squiddy thing. Even though it can easily launch himself into the saw blades earlier, you can easily get detracted from it and he will cause problems. So yeah, the best thing I can recommend for you is to make sure not to jump as little as possible, because if you jump, you can lose your momentum with the platform, and you can also have momentum with the platform as you jump. Is that particular? And of course, you are going to have to collect those blood pellets if you want to be able to get a checkpoint right here, because you will, as there's so many enemies down below. They can very easily overwhelm you if you're not careful. You can try if you want to, but it is recommended that you try to get those blood pellets as best you can. And of course, you do die a few times there, but eventually you'll find yourself yet enough. And of course, as I've shown, you want to dash down as soon as you can when you get down there, because otherwise this is the squiddy things will get you, and just coming down there is pretty much just to get a page, so you don't have to do that. You just dash down. Now, as soon as you kill off all of these enemies, basically you want to hit the levers in a sequential way so they can jump down at the same time. And you do want to save there, because there aren't enough enemies and blood pellets for you to be able to get past them. Again, there's another place you can get the blood badge page. And the squiddy things, for the most part, are going to be a little bit easier to kill, because this is a differently built area. Now, this is the final floating island passing you'll get pretty much before you get to the final area. You have to time yourself very precisely here, because sometimes you'll end up landing on the platform, even if it's not there, and sometimes you'll end up like jumping on there as soon as you see it appear, but it'll pull in. It's that precise with the jumping. And you also want to be careful, because the first jump you make, you can easily hit the spike, so you want to make sure if you jump, you want to air jump right after. Cool. So again, collect the blood pellets as much as you can, and as you can see right there's a solid that means you cannot go past that. You have to go up past stalactites. Again, if you don't jump carefully, you can easily find yourself dying and losing your progress. This is one of the hardest parts to get past, pretty much, is just find yourself to bump yourself through the stalactites, because you cannot wall climb on that ledge. You have to jump from one of those things right there. And of course, you cannot save right there because of the saw blade, so you have to jump, save just below there, which is pretty much the only reason why that lip is there. If that lip was not there, you would probably have a much better time climbing up. But this is what's supposed to be the hardest part of the level, since you cannot save past this point from certain gauntlet areas. But all you really need to do is wall climb all the way up, so you don't have to deal with most of the enemies. But again, you do want to deal with the squiddy thing as quickly as you can, because it will get annoying. And you also have to keep up the platform, because there's not really an easy way to get up there. You can get up there through the wall climbing area, but not really. And right here, you have to make sure you do not jump. If you jump, you risk hitting the saw blades up top, but basically for the most part, you want to tap the directional pad, or whichever controller you're using. I was using the keyboard, so just tap the keyboards, and this is pretty much the last place you ever need to save. You can try to save there, but again, if you try to go off it at all, or if you jump too off, you will hit the spikes below, because if you jump in a certain point, the shamblers will attack you even when you're not there. They'll just, do it pre-made. And, well, basically you want to go through this as quickly as you can, and only jump on those areas that you need to go, because pretty much every cube there, you will die in. And that's pretty much that level. It's probably, it'll be probably one of the game enders for most people. You just want to be patient with it. Stay tuned for the next episode, which will be showing the most closed-in level of the entire game. So stay tuned.